Hi, my name is Marvin Lindsay, and I'm the senior pastor of First Presbyterian Church in Columbia, Missouri. In this video, I want to talk a little bit about what the expiration of the statewide stay-at-home order means for the worship and ministry of our congregation. I want to offer some good news, a report about the continued vitality and strength of this congregation, even in the midst of the pandemic. And then finally, I want to ask you to do a couple of things that I believe will help us care for one another in the midst of this pandemic, and also communicate the love of Jesus Christ and the gospel effectively in new ways and in new venues in the weeks and years to come. So first of all, let me say a little bit about worship. In March, the session, that's the governing board of our congregation, voted to suspend in-person corporate worship until we received assurance from the Centers for Disease Control that it would be safe for groups of 50 or more to gather together. And we have yet to receive that assurance. In fact, the latest CDC advisory for congregations, worshiping communities, and not-for-profits recommends that if we are working with high-risk groups of people, that we limit groups to no more than 10. And that definitely describes our congregation. We are a congregation with lots of senior citizens and many people with chronic or underlying medical conditions that make them especially vulnerable to exposure to the coronavirus or to acquiring COVID-19. So in-person worship will continue to be suspended throughout the month of May. And the session invites you to worship with us online on Sundays at 11 a.m. That's when our worship services will be posted. And you can find us on our website at www.fpccolumbia.org. You can also find our worship services on our Facebook page. Just search for us at FPC Columbia. Now, I know that because of the expiration of the stay-at-home order, there's no legal impediment to us gathering for corporate worship. But in the New Testament, the Apostle Paul writes that for Christians, all things are lawful, but not all things are beneficial. And the session believes that at this time, it would be most beneficial both for our congregation and for our community if we not gather in person for worship, but continue to worship online. So for the month of May, we should consider the church facility to be closed. Church staff are going to continue to work from home to the extent that they can. We will have some staff slipping in and out to do some things that are necessary to be done here on site. But the church building is in good shape. It's well taken care of. It's ready and waiting for you for your return. And in the meantime, the things that usually go on here, our circles, our small groups, session meetings, deacon meetings, and other gatherings have been transferred online, and that transfer has gone remarkably well. There's always been hiccups, of course, learning how to use Zoom and learning how to live stream worship services, but things are going well, and we are adjusting, I think as well as can be expected, to this unique situation we find ourselves in. And you continue to be an extraordinarily generous congregation. I want to share this one bit of good news that just fills my heart with joy. We received over $2,700 in donations for our One Great Hour of Sharing offering. This offering we receive every year around Easter, and it provides basic human needs. People who are suffering from famine, malnutrition, from natural disasters throughout the world. And your generosity is extraordinary, especially in light of the situation we find ourselves in. You gave $400 more than you did last year, and that is without having a packed house on Easter Sunday and passing the plate. And that is in the midst of the greatest economic crisis we faced since the Great Depression. So really, you're an extraordinarily generous congregation, and I want to say thank you, and say thank you on behalf of the people that this offering directly benefits. People who are suffering from malnutrition in northern Nigeria and in southern Sudan and in Yemen because of weather conditions and because of warfare and violence. People who are living in remote towns and open country in Puerto Rico who still lack electricity and still haven't had their roofs repaired after the devastating Hurricane Maria passed through a couple of years ago. Your donations and your generosity will put food on the table of hungry people and will help victims of natural disasters rebuild their lives. And so on their behalf, let me just say thank you. You know, I know that the inability of us to come together for corporate worship is a great burden for many of us to bear. I know that many of you would like to see your old friends that you've known for years and decades here at First Presbyterian Church and see new friends who have just joined the congregation in the last few months and couple of years. But there's this verse in the book of Ecclesiastes. It says there is a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. And the session believes that now is still the time to refrain from embracing. And so while we would love to be here and exchange handshakes and hugs with the people that we love, we really do think it's best that we refrain from that right now. And I know it's strange, but it really is true. This is an act of love and compassion for other people, especially vulnerable people, people vulnerable to acquiring the virus and becoming seriously ill. It's strange that in this time, the loving thing to do is the exact opposite of what we would have been doing just a couple of months ago. But we can still show love for those members of our congregation and our community who are really in need of it right now. When we first began to enter this season of pandemic, I asked you to think of 5 people that didn't need to face this situation by themselves and reach out to them. Ask them if there's anything they needed. Ask them if they needed prayer. Ask them what you could do to be of help. And to reach out in a way that's responsible. A phone call, a text message or an email, a good old-fashioned letter or a postcard. And so as we enter a second month of being away from this house of worship, I just want to reiterate that invitation to make it again. Think of 5 people that you know that don't need to be alone at this time. And reach out to them and ask them if you can pray for them. Ask them if there's anything that you can do to be of help. Ask them if they're doing okay. It's by looking to God and by looking out for each other that we will make it through this situation. And we will emerge on the far side of this pandemic a stronger and healthier congregation than we were when we entered it. I know that a lot of you are just ready for this to be over so that things can get back to normal. I share that feeling. I would really like for things to get back to normal. I said to the staff this morning at a staff meeting, I would really like to take a vacation right now. I just don't have any place to go. I don't think any of us have any place to go right now on vacation. Maybe to our backyards or the end of the street. And things, to a certain extent, will get back to normal. The pandemic will abate. But in another way, things will not get back to normal. If by normal we mean the way that we lived with one another and worshiped and served with one another in January and February of 2020. I think that what we're going through is going to change us. Someone said to me a few weeks ago, this is the great before and after event of our lives. And I don't think that we'll be the same on the far side of this as we were entering it. One of the differences that I think we're going to see is the way that we get together online as opposed to in person. You know, right now the only way that we can come together in groups and form community is through online communities and through digital gatherings. And I think that even after we're able to meet as groups of people, these digital and online communities are going to remain very important. And it's important for us at First Presbyterian Church that we are witness to the love and justice of Jesus Christ in these digital and online communities. And we can go ahead and begin to do that. So if you have a Facebook account, I would invite you to like our Facebook page. And if you see posts or events that particularly speak to you, like them, comment on them, and share them. And likewise, if you aren't already receiving our daily e-newsletters, just let us know. Give us a call at 573-442-1164 or email us at office@fpccolumbia.org, and you can begin to receive our daily email newsletters. And if there's something that you find in there that's encouraging, send it along, forward it to a friend that you think would particularly benefit from it. Now, we're not asking you to spam your friends with stuff from First Presbyterian Church. Be thoughtful and discerning about it. But if there's something that you received from us that speaks to you, share it with somebody else. I want to conclude by telling you a story, and you know this story perhaps. In the year 1828, the Presbyterian Home Mission Society of New York sent 2 Presbyterian ministers way out to the frontier, across the Appalachian Mountains, and way beyond the Mississippi River to a frontier town called Columbia in the heart of Missouri to found a new church. And these 2 ministers came out to Columbia, Missouri, and they found 9 people who were interested in being Presbyterian Christians, who were interested in forming a new congregation, and so they formed a congregation, First Presbyterian Church, your congregation. Now today, we have an opportunity to be missionaries. The frontier today are these digital and online communities that more and more people are spending more and more of their time in. And I believe that it's important that the gospel of Jesus Christ be proclaimed in these online and digital communities so that people who live and who interact there can know that through faith in Jesus Christ, they can be children of a loving and just and faithful God. And so I would invite you to be a part of that, to witness to Jesus Christ in the online and digital world, as well as in your everyday world, where as a coworker or as a spouse or as a parent or as a neighbor, you try to be a good and fair and loving person. So just to wrap up, we will not be having corporate worship at First Presbyterian Church for the month of May. We'll be worshiping online, www.fpccolumbia.org. You can also worship with us on Facebook. Just search for us at fpccolumbia.org. The congregation remains strong and vital. Your generosity is really making a difference in the lives of people here in Columbia and throughout the world. And while the pandemic presents us with unprecedented challenges, it also presents us with new and exciting opportunities to share the gospel of Jesus Christ, to share his love in new ways and in new venues. And so let's be open to what the Holy Spirit is leading us to do in these days and weeks to come, that Christ would be glorified and that Christ's church would be built up. Grace and peace to you.